Little Brother by Cory Doctorow, Chapter 7. Voices by Mrs. Dean and Mr. Dean. Drawings by Mr. Dean. They took me outside and around the corner to a waiting unmarked police car. It wasn't like anyone in that neighborhood would have had a hard time figuring out that it was a cop car, though. Only the police drove big Crown Vics now that gas had hit $7 a gallon. What's more, only cops could double park. In the middle of Van Ness Street, without getting towed by the schools of predatory tow operators that circled endlessly, ready to enforce San Francisco's incomprehensible parking regulations and collect the bounty for kidnapping your car. Booger, the cop with the booger in his nose, blew his nose. I was sitting in the back seat, and so was he. His partner was sitting in the front, typing with one finger on an ancient, ruggedized laptop that looked like Fred Flintstone had been its original owner. Booger looked closely at my ID again. "We just want to ask you a few routine questions."
"Can I see your badges?"
I said. These guys were clearly cops, but it couldn't hurt to let them know I knew my rights. Booger flashed his badge at me too fast for me to get a good look at it, but Zit in the front gave me a long look at his. I got their division number and memorized the 4-digit badge number. It was easy. 1337 is also the way hackers write elite, or elite. They were both being very polite, and neither of them was trying to intimidate me the way the DHS had done when I was in their custody.
"Am I under arrest?"
"You've been momentarily detained so that we can ensure your safety and the general public safety," Booger said. He passed my driver's license to Zit, the cop with the zit on his face, who pecked it slowly into his computer. I saw him make a typo and almost corrected him, but figured it was better to just keep my mouth shut. "Is there anything you want to tell me, Marcus? Do they call you Mark?"
"Marcus is fine,"
I said. Booger looked like he might be a nice guy. Except for the part about kidnapping me into his car, of course. "Marcus, then. Anything you want to tell me?"
"Like what? Am I under arrest?"
"You're not under arrest. Right now," Booger said. "Would you like to be?"
"No,"
I said. "Good. We've been watching you since you left the BART. Your fast pass says you've been riding a lot of strange places at a lot of funny hours." I felt something let go inside my chest. This wasn't about the XNet at all, then. Not really. They'd been watching my subway use and wanted to know why it had been so freaky lately. How totally stupid.
"So, you guys follow everyone who comes out of the BART station with a funny ride history? You must be busy."
"Not everyone, Marcus. We get an alert when anyone with an uncommon ride profile comes out and helps us assess whether we want to investigate. In your case, we came along because we wanted to know why a smart-looking kid like you had such a funny ride profile." Now that I knew I wasn't about to go to jail, I was getting really angry. These guys had no business spying on me. My goodness, the BART had no business helping them spy on me. Where the heck did my subway pass get off thinking me out for having a non-standard ride pattern?
"I think I'd like to be arrested now,"
I said. Booger sat back and raised his eyebrow at me. "Really? On what charge?"
"Oh, you mean riding public transit in a non-standard way isn't a crime?"
Zit closed his eyes and scrubbed them with his thumbs. Booger sighed a put-upon sigh. "Look, Marcus, we're on your side here. We use this system to catch bad guys, to catch terrorists and drug dealers. Maybe you're a drug dealer yourself. Pretty good a way to get around the city. A fast pass. It's anonymous."
"What's wrong with anonymous? It was good enough for Thomas Jefferson. And by the way, am I under arrest?"
"Ugh. Let's take him home," Zit said. "We can talk to his parents."
"I think that's a great idea.
I said.
I'm sure my parents will be anxious to hear how their tax dollars are being spent."
I'd pushed too far. Booger had been reaching for the door handle, but now he whirled at me, all hulked out and throbbing veins. "Why don't you just shut up right now while it's still an option? After everything that's happened for the past 2 weeks, it wouldn't kill you to cooperate with us. You know what? Maybe we should arrest you. You could spend a day or two in jail while your lawyer looks for you. A lot can happen to you in that time, Marcus. A lot. How'd you like that? Huh? Huh?" I didn't say anything. I'd been giddy and angry. Now I was scared, witless.
I'm sorry.
I managed, hating myself for saying it. Booger got in the front seat, and Zit put the car in gear, cruising up 24th Street and over Potrero Hill. They had my address from my ID. Mom answered the door after they rang the bell, leaving the chain on. She peeked around it, saw me, and said,
Marcus, who are these men?
"Police!" Booger said. He showed her his badge, letting her get a good look at it, not whipping it away the way he had with me. "Can we come in?" Mom closed the door and took the chain off and let them in. They brought me in, and Mom gave the three of us one of her looks.
What's this about?
Booger pointed at me. "We wanted to ask your son some routine questions about his movements, but he declined to answer them. We felt it might be best to bring him here."
Is he under arrest?
Mom's accent was coming on strong now. Good old Mom. "Are you a United States citizen, ma'am?" Zit said. She gave him a look that could have stripped paint.
I sure am. Yeah.
She said in a broad southern accent.
Am I under arrest?
The two cops exchanged a look. Zit took the floor. "We seem to have gotten off to a bad start. We identified your son as someone with a non-standard public transit usage pattern as part of a new proactive enforcement program. When we spot people whose travels are unusual or that match a suspicious profile, we investigate further."
Wait.
Mom said.
How do you know how my son uses the Muni?
"The fast path," he said. "It tracks voyages."
I see.
Mom said, folding her arms. Oh boy, folding her arms was a bad sign. It was bad enough she hadn't offered them a cup of tea. In Momland, that was practically like making them shout through the mail slot. But once she folded her arms, it was not going to end well for them. At that moment, I wanted to go and buy her a big bunch of flowers. Marcus here declined to tell us why his movements had been what they were.
Are you saying you think my son is a terrorist because of how he rides the bus?
"Terrorists aren't the only bad guys we catch this way," Zit said. "Drug dealers, gang kids, even shoplifters smart enough to hit a different neighborhood with every run."
You think my son is a drug dealer?
"We're not saying, that," Zit began. Mom clapped her hands at him to shut him up.
Marcus, please pass me your backpack.
I did. Mom unzipped it and looked through it, turning her back to us first.
Officers, I can now affirm that there are no narcotics, explosives, or shoplifted gewgaws in my son's bag. I think we're done here. I would like your badge numbers before you go, please.
Booger sneered at her. "Lady, the ACLU is suing 300 cops on the SFPD. You're gonna have to get in line." Mom made me a cup of tea and then shooed me out for eating dinner when I knew she'd been making falafel. Dad came home while we were still at the table, and Mom and I took turns telling him the story. He shook his head. "Lillian, they were just doing their jobs." He was still wearing the blue blazer and khakis he wore on the days that he was consulting in Silicon Valley. "The world isn't the same place it was last week." Mom set down her teacup.
Drew, you're being ridiculous. Your son is not a terrorist. His use of the public transit system is not cause for a police investigation.
Dad took off his blazer. "We do this all the time at my work. It's how computers can be used for to find all kinds of errors, anomalies, and outcomes. You ask the computer to create a profile of an average record in a database, and then ask it to find out which records in the database are furthest away from average. It's part of something called Bayesian analysis, and it's been around for centuries now. Without it, we couldn't even do spam filtering."
So you're saying that you think the police should suck as hard as my spam filter?
I said. Dad never got angry at me for arguing with him, but tonight I could see the strain was running high in him. Still, I couldn't resist. My own father, taking the police's side against me. I'm saying that it's perfectly reasonable for the police to conduct their investigations by starting with data mining, and then following it up with legwork, where a human being actually interviews and intervenes to see why the abnormality exists. I don't think that a computer should be telling the police whom to arrest, just helping them sort through the haystack to find the needle.
But by taking in all the data from the transit system, they're creating the haystack.
I said.
That's a gigantic mountain of data, and there's almost nothing worth looking at there. From the police's point of view, It's a total waste.
I understand that you don't like that this system caused you some inconvenience, Marcus. But you of all people should appreciate the gravity of the situation. There was no harm done, was there? They even gave you a ride home. They threatened to send me to jail, I thought, silently, but I could see there was no point in saying it aloud. Besides, you still haven't told us where the blazing hells you've been to create such an unusual traffic pattern. That brought me up short.
I thought you relied on my judgment, that you didn't want to spy on me.
He'd said this often enough.
Do you really want me to account for every trip I've ever taken?
I hooked up my Xbox as soon as I got to my room. I'd put the projector on an end table so that it could shine on the wall over my bed. I'd had to take down my awesome mural of punk rock handbills I'd taken down off telephone poles and glued on a big white sheet of paper. I powered up the Xbox and watched as it came onto the screen. I was going to email Van and Hulu to tell them about the hassle with the cops, but as I put my fingers to the keyboard, I stopped again. A feeling crept over me, one not unlike the feeling I'd had when I realized they'd turned poor old Salamagundi, my laptop, into a traitor. This time, it was the feeling that my beloved XNet might be broadcasting the location of every one of its users to the DHS. It was what Dad had said. You ask the computer to create a profile of the average record in the database, and then ask it to find out which records in the database are farthest away from average. The XNet was secure because its users weren't directly connected to the internet. They hopped from Xbox to Xbox until they found one that was connected to the internet. Then they injected their material as undecipherable encrypted data. No one could tell which of the internet's packets were XNet and which ones were just plain old banking and e-commerce and other encrypted communication. You couldn't find out who was tying to XNet, let alone who was using the XNet. What about Dad's Bayesian statistics? I'd played with Bayesian math before. Daryl and I once tried to write our own better spam filter, and when you filter spam, you need Bayesian math. Thomas Bayes was an 18th century British mathematician that no one cared about until a couple hundred years later, after he died, when computer scientists realized that his technique for statistically analyzing mountains of data would be super useful for the modern world's info Himalayas. Here's some of how Bayesian stats work. Say you've got a bunch of spam. Those are unwanted emails. You take every word that's in the spam and count how many times it appears. This is called a word frequency histogram, and it tells you what the probability is that any bag of words is likely to be spam. Now take a ton of email that's not spam. In the biz, they call that the ham, and do the same. Wait until a new email arrives and count the words that appear in it. Then use the word frequency histogram in the candidate message to calculate the probability that it belongs in the spam pile or the ham pile. If it turns out to be spam, you adjust the spam histogram accordingly. There are lots of ways to refine the technique, looking at words in pairs, throwing away old data, but this is how it works at its core. It's one of those great, simple ideas that seem simple after you hear about it. It's got lots of applications. You could ask a computer to count the lines in a picture and see if it's more like a dog line frequency histogram or a cat line frequency histogram. It can find porn, bank fraud, and flame wars. Useful stuff. And it was bad news for the XNet. Say you had the whole internet wiretapped, which of course the DHS has. You can't tell who's passing XNet packets by looking at the contents of those packets. Thanks.